Welcome to the Daily Tokyo Hockey Show on the FIH YouTube channel with me, Sarah Juggins. It has been semi-finals day in the women's competition, and we now know who will be contesting the gold medal after Netherlands and Argentina triumphed in their matches earlier today. Talking us through the games today is a quartet of hockey stars who between them have appeared at 11 Olympic Games. Marcia Cox is South Africa's most capped team sports player of all time with 347 caps. She appeared for the women's national team at 3 Olympic Games and 4 World Cups. Hi Marcia, how are you?
Hi Sarah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Roger Hoffman is a former Dutch international who won silver with the Netherlands in 2012, as well as silver at the 2014 World Cup in The Hague. Roger finished his international career of 212 caps after Rio 2016, where the Dutch finished 4th. Hi Roger, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Good. Beating Roger's Dutch team to gold in 2012 was Mo versus Germany. Mo played for Germany 262 times, including 2 gold medal performances in 2008 and 2012, and a bronze medal at the 2016 Games. Hi, Mo.
Hey, Sarah.
Great. And all the viewers are going to be very pleased that we've got a full signal with you today, which is fantastic. Our fourth guest is Great Britain's Simon Mason, who played in goal for Great Britain at the 1996, 2000 and 2004 Olympics. Since retiring, Simon has reinvented himself as a hockey commentator of some renown, combining his immense technical knowledge with an entertaining style of delivery. First of all, Simon, as a debutant on the show, before we dive into today's games in too much detail, I just wanted to get your thoughts overall on the hockey competition. What have sort of been the standout moments for you? And also, can you sort of name check 1 or 2 standout players to this point?
Wow. Well, thanks for inviting me on for starters, and I'm also glad that my intro didn't talk about my lack of medals compared to Roger and Mo's. That would have been very unfair to open with. Competition in general, I think the Olympic Games is unique. The amount of pressure that there is really creates some fabulous performances, and they've just been incredible in many different ways. I think India's ladies, how they played against Australia in their quarterfinal, I think how they set up, it wasn't a pretty game if we're looking to entertain lots of people, but how they managed that game in terms of getting a result out of it, I think that was simply incredible for them, for women's hockey back in India and that part of the world. I think that was amazing. The impact that the South African men's team had on their first and only victory against Germany, I think that resonated across a huge number of people. In the men's competition, you'd struggle to look beyond a single player impact beyond that of Alex Hendricks. And you've got somebody who I think is only 3 goals away from Thies Kruijs's Olympic record of goals scored in a single Olympic game. He's got 14 so far with a game still to go. And he has personally impacted on the results of that Belgian side getting all the way through to the final. And then it would be impossible to go through this without, from a women's competition, of identifying just simply how good the Netherlands are. They have played within themselves on several occasions and yet have come through relatively unscathed. It feels that they have such an incredible depth of talent. That has to be something to do with the structure back in the Netherlands to be able to bring young players in who are still performing at that level. And they are seemingly untouchable. And I think they're amazing to watch on so many different levels, technically, tactically, athletically. So there's some brief highlights for now.
Yeah, brilliant. And you've actually touched on 1 or 2 points there that we're obviously going to mention a bit later. But just moving on to today's matches, in the opening game, we saw the Netherlands and Great Britain replay the final of the Rio 2016 Olympics, but obviously with a very, very different outcome. First quarter was very evenly matched and ended 0-0, but then the Netherlands just seemed to put their foot on the accelerator and scored 2 goals within 1 minute through Felice Albers, who's been a revelation at the Games, and Marloes Kietels. In the third quarter, Maria Verschoor added a PC, and Albers scored her second. Giselle Ansley got one back for Great Britain from a penalty corner, but then the deal was completely sealed when Frederica Matla scored her 9th goal of the tournament. Marcia, I'll come to you. What was your take on the Netherlands' performance today? It was quite immense, wasn't it?
Yeah, and reading the Dutch press after the game, it was quite they had a lot of motivation, considering some of the comments in the build-up, I think, between the 2 teams. And I think that's exactly what they wanted to do was, as they said in their interviews, they wanted their performance to speak louder than any words. that were exchanged, and that's what they went out and did today. They showed their class. They showed exactly what Simon said, their depth, with a player like Felice Albers, who is a newcomer on the scene for this group. And one of the comments that stands out for me was at the beginning of the tournament, she said that her goal is to prove herself and figure out how she becomes a more constant figure in this team. And that's exactly what she's done this whole tournament. And in big games like today, that's when you definitely have to put your hand up. And that's exactly what she did. So I think that one of the things that I appreciate about and I respect about a team like that is they have a statement like that where our performance needs to speak louder than anything else. And they put their money where their mouth is and did it.
I mean, you can feel, or until today, you could feel that palpable hurt every single time Rio was mentioned, couldn't you? And you know, I think most people were probably expecting today, if we're honest. Roger, can you identify what the Dutch did that suddenly shifted them through the gears? Because it was sort of level pegging. I mean, you felt that Great Britain were pushing and pushing, and the Dutch were just really holding back, waiting for something to happen. But something did just move them up through the gears a little bit.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think the Dutch team is so good that if they have the feeling they need to do something extra, they're just capable of doing that. And they have a lot of youngsters, a lot of talented players, but they also have a lot of some older players who won so many tournaments that they just know when they need to perform. And I think they're great at doing that. And that's such a good thing about this Dutch team. It's a great combination of youngsters and older girls and women who won anything you can win. And by the time you have done that so many times, you know how it works. You know, that's probably the reason why we always lost against Germany on the big tournaments, is because they just know that in my time, Mo, you just knew how to do it. And this team in the Netherlands and this women's team, they just know how to do it. And they have so many good players that if it's necessary, they can just gear up. And then, in my opinion, they're just too good to not win.
Yeah, I mean, we saw today the TV cameras just clicked onto Alison Annan talking to, I think it was for sure, just before she scored her PC, which makes me think there was a little tweak going on there as well. And it seemed to me today that Alison was far more hands-on at the edge of the pitch than she has been in the earlier games. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I don't know, Marcia, please go.
Yeah, I think that what you saw from the start of Alison's tenure with this team is that she definitely has searched and found how to motivate and how to inspire different players in the group. I think that is something that a lot of coaches on the international scene also search for, and you can see that a lot of coaches that are learning from Alison are also, these are the types of dynamics that are really important to how you do your job. It's not just about giving the instructions of where to stand and what skills to use, but also how to identify which different skill sets you need to motivate and inspire your players. And I think that is something that you saw her do from day one with this group. And as the longer she stayed on, the stronger the relationships have gotten with a lot of the players. And what I really like is when you speak to some of the girls that I'm friends with, they have a very clear understanding of what the expectations are of them, what they're capable of doing, and when they are important for the team at different moments. And I think that is probably some of the things that when you're talking about getting those moments where she's connecting with players, it's probably reinforcement or just extra motivation that those players need at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that makes her a great coach, isn't it? This ability to know the players better than just as hockey players, but actually as wider people as well. Mo, if I can come to you for a moment, it's a very, very vague connection, but if we compare the Dutch team now to the German men's team when they were at the height of their powers in 2008 and 2012, how tough is it to wear the mantle of a number one side compared to all the teams that are doing the chasing?
Not so hard, to be honest. In this international world of hockey, you finish a season with a title, if in the best case, but you go out in January, February for the preparation for the next season, and it all starts from zero every single time. That's what we at least have been saying ourselves. apart from the fact that there are new players coming in, and some older people drop out after at least most of the tournaments. It's not that you say like, okay, now everyone's chasing us. It's like you go out there and you want to win every single game you play. But if I just might add one thing to the Dutch team, because that's a big difference to our time, although it might be comparable from a medal perspective at that time. But honestly, I mean, maybe it's not popular, but they are just so much better than the rest. They are just better. They know it's. And I mean, I also know a few of the girls, and I've been talking to them, and it's not a secret. They go out there and they know we are better. They know if we play to our strength and our potential today, we will win the game, and it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the pitch. So what I think is very impressive is the fact that they have been doing this for, I don't know, as long as I can think now, and they delivered every single time. The last game, I don't know, I just heard this today on the commentary in German. The last game the Dutch team lost in the Olympics in a normal time was 2004 in Athens. That's unbelievable. I mean, we know they lost a game in overtime or shootouts, but that was the last time they lost a game of hockey in an Olympic tournament. And that is impressive that they have been delivering that for like more than a decade now. And I mean, that's mental strength. That's what you said. There are so many things come together there, but we cannot forget the fact that they are just really, really much better than the rest.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry to add in, but also Mo, don't you think that it also is a different change in mindset and culture as a player if your first outing when you're 17 years old, you end up on the podium? You know, because a lot of these players, if they look back at their careers, like the older girls, if they look back at their careers, and not even the older girls, even the young ones, like that is just how it is. You come your first major tournament, whether it's a World Cup or an Olympic Games, you end up on the podium.
Yeah,
I think that changes the path of your mindset in your career, right?
I totally agree, but also there's a big threat in that, and the German men's team has been struggling with that. We had this very same procedure because at one point it somehow comes natural, and it's very dangerous for youngsters to join the team to go there with the feeling we basically don't have to do much because we will end up on the podium anyway. And whenever these teams have to do the shift, because at one point even Ifa de Goede will have to stop playing. I don't know when, but at one point
it's going to take a while, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to take a while probably. And I mean, even Liedewey, she's younger, but she will also stop at one point. And so the people that have been carrying this team for quite a while now, if they quit and new players join in, then there is a potential threat that everything's taken for granted. And this team is not there because they are just there. They are there because they work very hard. And that's what I think Germany was struggling on the men's side with, that at some point it felt like we don't have to work hard anymore. We just end up there anyway. And then that shifted, and then and ever since it's hard to come back on that track. And I think they are on the right path now, but it took a couple of years.
Just looking at the other team on the pitch today, Simon, your thoughts on the GB team? I mean, they've grown into the tournament, but there's still a lot of growing to do, right?
Yes. Where's this going out, did we say before we started?
Worldwide.
Yeah. You've got a team that came into the competition having not had a great sort of 12 or 18 months really in terms of consistent results. They haven't featured highly in any of the tournaments that they've really played in. And in my opinion, they're a distance outside what you would perceive to be the top 3 or 4 in the world if you were to just scribble names on the top of a piece of paper. I think what's interesting with women's hockey is I think there's a bigger gap between the top 4 and then everybody else. Obviously, you've got the Netherlands we've talked about, but I then think there are 2 or 3 other teams, creates a top 4, and then you've got a bit of a drop down into that next group. Whereas with the men's, I think you've got a more distinct top 8. So there's more potential medalists in the men's. So with Great Britain, I think they got through the pool, then they were fortunate with the way the results went to have played Spain. My expectation before we came was they would come 4th in the pool and then play Australia and then go home. That was my genuine, and I'm not afraid to share that. I said it to a number of people. That's where I felt they were. And there is a distance between some of their skill sets than the top teams. They're as fit as the top teams, but that's kind of where the Rio culture, they had a culture, but they also had a fitness. Their physicality was right up there, and it enabled them to be competitive, and they haven't recreated that. And other teams have then stepped up beyond them, and you look at some of the set plays, you look at their penalty corners that weren't as good as other sides. So they kind of are where they are in the world. I think the fact they've got to a bronze medal game, if I was a player within that, I know we all talk about we want to win gold. We've come to an Olympics, it's all about gold medals. But actually, if they go home with a bronze medal, there'll be a lot of very, very happy people relative to where they thought they might end up.
I agree. I mean, one or two players have stepped up and been a surprise, but it's going to take a few more years of building, I think, for them to, as you say, push into that top four. Coming to the second match, India and Argentina. I mean, India took a lead through a fantastic goal by Gurjit, and I think everybody was really excited about where this match might be going. Then it was the ageless Noel Barrionuevo. It was her turn to step up, and you could just tell she wasn't going to leave this Olympic stage without a medal. So 349 matches for her country, and her 2 penalty corner goals have taken them through to the finals, set up a match with the Dutch. Mo, first of all, can you just sum up Argentina's performance in this match? You know, who were the playmakers? What happened to Argentina to get them through that hurdle?
Well, yeah, I'm smiling because just before we started the show, I already shared my thoughts on that game, and I thought it was not a very good game of hockey. But Simon actually helped me in phrasing what my thoughts were like, and it is impressive how India basically made it happen in the quarterfinal and semifinal to get their style of playing on the pitch and to basically commit the opponent team in both games in a way to run and do whatever they want to do, but to not be really able to get through with their game plan. And that's impressive because India played I spent some time there. So they played basically without a real defensive structure. They were running a lot, they defended well, but in the end, they were relying on individual skills with the ball, trying to basically kick and rush the ball as much forward as they possibly can to then in the circle, hopefully get a PC, which worked out quite well, actually. And in the end, they were just there, right? So there were a couple of scenes at the end where it could have been a PC for India again. The 2-1 is a little bit, you can discuss that if it was high or not high. Simon will explain why it's a goal, but it was a tough game and it was really close till the edge. And what I think was I don't want to go too much into players because I thought that was not the most important part of the game. I think it was really interesting to see again that in an Olympic semifinal, how much really like the mental strength and the focus, how much that comes into play, because you could literally feel that Argentina was not able to perform the way they can just because they were shocked by that first goal. They were shocked by the thought they might actually not end up in the final because they probably thought that for at least 35 minutes of the game, they were like, oh man, we never thought this could actually be in doubt that we end up in the final. And then suddenly the game went the way it went. And I thought that was really interesting to see that how the emotions played their role there and how happy they were actually in the end when they ended up being the winner of a game they have to win in the end.
Yeah. I mean, Simon, I thought Argentina were teetering on the edge of implosion at one point in that match. And it actually took quite a lot of skill from the umpires, in particular Sarah Wilson, I thought, to calm everybody down. There were some moments, as Mo mentioned, where there was some interest. There are some interpretations of the rules. I don't know if you want to just talk about the one that we were referring to at the end briefly.
Okay. Are we talking about the lifted ball or are we talking about the penalty corner masks?
Let's go with the penalty corner mask because a lot of viewers won't understand that ruling.
From my knowledge, really briefly, so if you're wearing penalty corner defensive equipment, you can wear it during the penalty corner, and the rules state that if you are a defender, you can still be wearing it when you give the first pass out of defense to create the next phase of play, but you can only wear it during that first phase of play. In open play, nobody's allowed to wear protective equipment. So Sarah Wilson's interpretation in that moment, I agreed with her. It was overruled by the video umpire, but I agreed with her on commentary, was that Argentina had got the ball out. They'd given the ball out to a left defender. The defender had tried to clear it down the line. India had intercepted that and then come back into the circle. That was second phase play. And because 3 out of 4 of the defenders had managed to get rid of all their gear, the fact that somebody was still wearing it, that is an infringement within the rules. You're not allowed to wear protective equipment during normal play. That's a foul within the circle. That's a penalty corner. That's what Sarah Wilson thought. That's why she blew it. It's a pretty technical call. And Marsha and I have been, well, all of us have been talking before this about, well, if a player perceives that there is danger to them, should they have to take it off? But that's more about interpretation. However, Ayana up in the video umpires box decided that wasn't the case. It was still within the same phase of play, and therefore she didn't have to remove it, and it was overruled. It's unusual for a video umpire to overrule an interpretation, particularly overrule a colleague, but that's what happened. You could see on Sarah's face during the broadcast that she possibly didn't agree with it, but that's what the situation was.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, we could devote a whole hour to discussing various interpretations of the rules, but that's what it's about. And there will be viewers who will have watched that and wondered what on earth was going on. So thank you for that. Marsha, India have delighted us at this tournament. What do you feel they've brought to the party?
Well, I think that much like the South African men, they've been underdogs for especially this phase of the tournament as they've come into the quarterfinals and the semifinals. They've definitely shown us a lot of passion. That, you know, Mo was talking about their style of play on the field, but one of the things that we know about India is that they are a team that will always play with belief and always play until the dying seconds of the game. And I think that is something that, you know, in these, especially in this phase of the tournament, you want to see teams really playing with that much passion and belief, because it doesn't matter what style of play you choose, you still want to go out to win. You know, the Olympics inspires all athletes to want to be that miracle or that special story. And I think that when you look at a team like India, that's what you also get inspired to see. Like you feel inspired by watching how much passion and energy they bring to the game. One of the things that they have impressed me with is their skill set that they've also developed. They in the past have had just a handpick of players that had phenomenal skill, but you're now seeing a fair spread across the field. And at one point, I think I even said in the game today, like, I'm just seeing sort of like a show of skills, because there was just a phase where it went from India to Argentina and it didn't matter who had the ball. It was like, I'm going to display what skills I have. And it was really entertaining to watch. And I think that that's where they've matched the top teams for sure. And sometimes I played them.
Yeah, I mean, and it's absolutely great to see the reaction they're getting back home in India as well, and the support they're getting. Okay, let's look ahead to Friday. Roger, if you were a Dutch player, I mean, obviously you're a Dutch man, but if you were a Dutch female player, what would you see as the biggest threat posed by Argentina? Do you feel Las Leonas have it within them to beat the Dutch?
An honest answer, or?
I'd like an honest answer.
Yeah. To be honest, yes, I think Argentina can win this game. But that's only when the Dutch team is playing well, it's not as good as they can be. And I think at this moment, this team, this woman, this group of talented players together will make sure they reach a certain level in the final, which will be good enough to win the game. It's never going to be easy because it's an Olympic final. Never going to be easy. But I think in general, in all the positions and all the skills they have, I think they're at this moment maybe a bit too good to beat. They can only lose from themselves, I guess, and that is a possibility because it's the final of the Olympic Games. But that is their biggest threat, I guess, is not the team on the other side of the pitch. It's themselves.
I mean, they'll need to keep cool in the face of what's undoubtedly going to be, I hate to stereotype, but a very, very passionate onslaught from Argentina, isn't it? It's sort of, pushed on from the back by Belensuki.
Yeah, it's always a fight, and that's what the Argentine women will try to do as well, because I think that's the only way they can manage to beat the Dutch team is when they win the fight. Well, it's an interesting game. It's always an interesting game, Holland against Argentina, and well, this is not going to be different because it's for the gold medal.
Yeah. And of course, it's Carlos's last game in charge as well before he goes to football, I think. So he'll be doubly excited about the match.
Is he going to do a women's and a men's team football, or only one?
Women's, men's, and some juniors as well.
Okay.
Just to sort of take a break from the action of today and the coming days, but Simon, just to touch on your role as a commentator, because there'll be people out there who are watching and thinking, "Wow, this is a role that I would quite like to take." Can you just give us a little bit of a flavour of what it's like to be a hockey commentator and some of the sort of the challenges and also the delights of what you do?
In short, it's the best job in the world. I mean, somebody rings you up and says, "Would you like to come and watch the best players in the world playing in the best stadiums in the world?" Where you can talk about it, and some people might listen, and then we'll pay you. I mean, seriously, do you want to have a worse job? I'm commentating on the Olympic Games. It's a privilege. It's taken a while to get to this. I was lucky to be in Delhi in 2010 for the World Cup when I was first asked to just join an on-pitch commentary team, and that was pure luck. That was right place at right time. And then maybe because as a goalkeeper I spent a long time simply shouting at people and having an opinion, that somebody said, well, some of it makes sense, so you get invited back, and it's as simple as that. So getting into it is really quite difficult. It's a bit of a, again, right place, right time, because there's lots of people who want to do it, but hockey is relatively small. There's no formal programs. So once you get beyond that and you're doing it regularly, it's very much about the more you do, the easier it becomes. I'm lucky now, having done all the Pro League, having done all the Europeans, having done World Cups, that for most of the teams, particularly in the men's side of the competition, I can name check them by sight and by body shape and by shoe color and stick type. And so you're not looking at team lists all the time. And that gives you a little bit more of instinctive ability to talk through what's happening. But a lot of it is then it's preparation, it's understanding what you need to do. And the hardest thing, the sole hardest thing really, is that you have to be able to have a conversation with your audience, a conversation like what we're having now. You're just expressing it through a microphone about a topic or whatever. But at the same time, I have somebody in my earpiece telling me how long I have to talk, what the next image is, when's the replay, when's the break, what's the sponsor clip. So you're given this set of instructions coming through your other ear, and you've almost got to listen to instructions while still continuing to talk. So it's just a different skill set. But for all of us on the call, we spend a lot of time learning new skills over the course of our careers, and it's just a different set of skills. The beauty is, really, there's no pressure. I'm paid to have an opinion, but 3 seconds after I've had it, the play's moved on and somebody's watching something different. So unless I get it really wrong, to be blunt, nobody actually cares. People perceive it adds value and across many sports, but the game itself is so exciting and so good that's what people actually want to watch, and we just try to add a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor.
Have you sort of found it different this year because there isn't a crowd as well? Because sometimes, yes, your commentary's going on ahead, but the viewer can see and hear the crowd reacting to things and gets a sense of what's happening. Have you had to work that a little bit harder, or has it just been a natural excitement from you anyway?
For a lot of it, you've deliberately had to try and create a new energy level, because as much as the players feed off the energy, and I was going to reflect on the Argentinians, as I think that is a struggle for them, because there's nothing for them to feed off, and they do feed off the energy of the crowd, rightly or wrongly. Yes, if you're commentating, you can't just speak down the microphone in a conversational tone. It doesn't work. You have to be throwing your voice and throwing your energy into it. And if there is nothing that is a buzz, it's not like the Europeans in 2019 that we were in the tower for the Germany-Belgium game, and we were standing up, jumping up and down. It's the most fabulous game that I've ever commentated on in terms of atmosphere. And you feed off that, and you come out of it as exhausted as a commentator as you would have done mentally as a player. Now in this COVID time, this last year, yeah, it's been difficult, but it's our responsibility to try and portray the game in as energized fashion as possible, and that is our job, and that's what the responsibility we take, is to put it across to the audience, to make as many people happy with that as possible, to excite as many people as possible.
Do you, final question for you on this, but do you spend your time practicing sayings that might go down in history, such as
No,
it's all over?
definitely.
Sorry, Mo.
There's two things you definitely don't do. One of them is you definitely do not try and shoehorn your friends' statements in, because trust me, every time you commentate and you go live, your phone goes mad with people trying to say, "Can you get the words?" What was it? Somebody going embellishment. I had to get that. Can you get that? I'm like, no, I can't. I can get helicopter. I've done helicopter, but apart from that. And then the other thing, you can't manufacture something. What you say comes naturally. You're feeding off the pictures, and you're just trying to relate to them. So no, you practice the basics. Get people's names right. That's the most important thing. So mum and dad at home don't get upset.
Yeah. And then the genius comment comes later. Okay, looking ahead to tomorrow's games, I have really a couple of cracking games coming up. First of all, India versus Germany. Mo, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's like an historic chance for India to get a medal. Actually, they have two of those in the next 48 hours. So that's going to be exciting for the subcontinent there. I think it's going to be tough, because I was surprised by the fact how quickly the Germans were able to, at least from texting and social media with them, to see how fast they were focused on winning that bronze medal. That really means a lot to that team, because they have been through some struggles. They had working with a coach that didn't work out so well. So now they have a new setup. They're all very happy with that. And they really want that medal. But then on the other hand, I think 1.2 billion people want that medal as well. So India will fight for their lives, literally. And I think this is going to be as exciting as it could be. And honestly, it's just a big shame that this is not happening in front of spectators, because as Simon was saying just now, I think maybe especially the Argentinians, but I think everyone on the pitch is feeding from the crowds and from the excitement and the roar in the stadium when you start warming up, basically. So it's going to be a very tough game. But I obviously hope that the German boys can win the bronze medal and bring it home. It would be great also for the German system, to be honest, because it relies a lot on the rewards that we gain at big tournaments. The financial support we get from the government basically relies on winning a medal in either the men's or the women's competition. Not many people know that, but it's really a fact. So it is very important for the sport of hockey in Germany, and I hope the boys can deliver.
Brilliant. Okay, and to the final, Roger, your thoughts?
Well, I think these are the two teams that, if you watch the entire tournament, those are two correct teams that are in the final. I think they are the best up until now, and I think it's going to be a great game. I think both teams are, if they play their best game, they will win. Until now, so
So both.
Yeah, so up until the final, if they win. Now, it's not going to be like the high jump, right? They say high five, we get both get a gold medal. That would be amazing. I think if you ask me now, point blank, I think Belgium has the best chance, but it's like 52-84%. It's really close. It's going to be on the it's going to be on the details. But I'm really looking forward to both games. I think it's going to be two great games with a lot of energy, and I'm really looking forward to it. Even though there's not a Dutch team in there, because that's how it is. But it's these four teams deserve, and especially these two teams deserve to be in the final. And I think it's going to be a great final. And like I said, a tiny bit, maybe a bit more Belgium, but the rest. And both teams can win, and both teams deserve it if you look at the rest of the tournament.
Don't you think, though, that the final, like the team that can bring a little bit of what the two teams have that are playing for the bronze medal, like Belgium and Australia are very technical and very good, and they play a very, very skillful game. But like Mo was talking about the bronze medal match, and two teams are coming out to fight for a medal, and don't you think that the final is also going to be about which team is going to bring more of a fight than the other? Because like you were talking, it's a very close game on skill level and performance that we've seen. But both teams haven't really shown us that same level of passion and fight, I think, because they play at a different level.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you, Marcel. And then if you look at who is willing to fight more. Then you have the Belgians who lost the final in Rio, who are really willing to fight with this group, and but also the Australian guys, they haven't been performing on the Olympic level as they should have wanted for the last times. So I think that they're gonna step up the fight, but I agree. It's gonna be a full force fight, and
And also, I mean, looking at this tournament, Belgium's performance is honestly just impressive. They started with a couple of wins against Holland and Germany. Then they had smooth games against Canada and South Africa, and then they maybe, I don't know, were not 100% focused against GB in the last pool match because they were already first with 12 points. You know how that is, and then they played an impressive quarterfinal, and even the semifinal was pretty straight. And Australia honestly started on a very on the front foot, but I thought they had not a really good game against Holland. I think they didn't play well there. Should have lost maybe even in the end. I think they played a really not so good game against Germany as well. I don't know what you discussed the other day, but I thought the Germans were outplaying them in the second half. Of course, they have their unbelievable strength, but I don't think they performed that well so far. So I'm with you when you said 52-48. I go 62-38.
So
easy game for Belgium, then. Easy game for Belgium.
Yeah.
See, at the very start of these shows, many days ago, Roger, you did say that penalty corners were going to be the winning factor. And I mean, you've got two teams there with some fabulous penalty corners, but if you're looking at them, probably Belgium's strike rate is better, isn't it? Well, sorry, Hendricks' strike rate is very, very impressive.
Yeah, it is. He's doing great, and that's one of the things where he was a reserve player in Rio, and he did in Rio, and he did everything he could in the last 4 or 5 years to not be that player anymore in the next Olympics, and that's what he did, and that's he's doing great, and those guys and those corners, it's going to be the difference. But I can also imagine that Belgium in this final is going to do something different with their corner, because it's a final, so you have to do something extra.
Absolutely. Okay, talking percentages, I couldn't possibly not give Simon and Marsha a chance to put their percentage bets in as well. So if we come to Marsha first, what's your percentage of and who's going to win?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I got a feeling that it's more. Yeah, I would go as close as Regier, but I would say to Australia and not to Belgium.
51-49, are we going?
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. But yeah, I don't know why. I just have a feeling that, yeah.
You see them as scrappers, don't you? They'll scrap for the final thing.
or just ready for a dogfight.
Yeah. Simon?
It's really interesting how form changes. If you'd asked me this at the end of the Pro League, at the beginning of the European Nations, I'd have said that the Olympics was a year too late for Belgium. I thought last year they'd have gone into this outright favourites, and I thought they'd have essentially walked it through. Walked it through. And then this year I thought, you know what, they're just a year too old. They're just looking at little heavy legs, and then suddenly they've found a set of form when they've shrugged off what looked for them being a little bit shackled. Maybe it was physical loading that they were going through, and they've got a depth of talent across every line that I have to go with Belgium. I still think it's going to be close. I'd go 55-45. I think Hendricks is going to play a part, even if, as Roger says, it's a deception. He plays off one castle and they run something off the other. But if Tom Bone is fit, then they've got three people who can play off the top. They've got so many options. I think it'll be a fight, because Australia have to come out, and I genuinely think they have to try and knock them off their stride. If I look back to how I perceive Germany played against Belgium in 2019, that they went out in the first half and they dominated Belgium physically and drove every single opportunity, and they put them on the back foot and they got the lead that they got. Yes, I appreciate Belgium won it in the end, but that was a game where Germany put out a real statement of intent. And I think if Australia try and play nice hockey to beat Belgium, they won't win. Australia will win if they beat Belgium up, knock them off their stride, get them frustrated, and then they can win some corners, and a Govers or a Hayward could step up and slot that through. The one stat they have in their favour is they've created 30% more chances than anybody else in the competition. How they've got the ball into circle, it's more than Belgium, it's more than Germany, it's more than the Netherlands, more than India, etc. So they'll create chances, but Belgium, it feels like they now have a depth of hockey talent that goes beyond their set plays that I think it'll be really difficult for Australia to answer that in every line.
So 70-30.
No, still 55-45. Definitely there's no 70-30. This will not be an easy game for either team.
I'm going 50-50 shootout Australia to win. There you go. Right. It's way over time. Thank you, everybody. We had a great discussion. Mo, this is your final appearance on the show, so thank you so much for giving up your time and sharing your thoughts with us. I'll hand it over to you for the last thing. What's been your standout moment from the competition so far?
I think the standout is rather a surprise, and I was surprised with the shootout in the quarters of Holland against Australia. I didn't expect the outcomes that we saw. I thought the Dutch were much more composed, and I was expecting it the other way around in the end, to be honest. But also because I did shootouts with Andrew Charter in India, and I didn't expect him to win a shootout. So that was a surprise. So yeah, no, I like that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for your honesty as well. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Simon. And thank you to Roger and Marsha, who we'll see again one of the next 2 days. Mo, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.